Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is episode 57, Flute Studio Highlights at the University of Texas at Arlington. Today's gold sponsor is brought to you by the interactive Flute Retreat. Join Project Trio at the 5th Interactive Flute Retreat, an all-inclusive event on the private shores of South Haven, Michigan, August 16th through the 19th, 2019. The retreat is a unique opportunity to continue learning and growing in a peaceful environment with world-class instructors. Walk away rejuvenated, improve your skills, and form memories in a picturesque location. Registration is now open. Please visit interactivefluteretreat.com. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Flute 360 podcast. Today I am with the wonderful Flute Studio at the University of Texas at Arlington and under the direction of their great mentor and teacher, Dr. Terri Sánchez. Today, we are talking to students about their accomplishments, their goals, and maybe things that they learned from an experience that helped them grow. So we are going to these different studios throughout Texas, and we are picking their brains about these topics and just highlighting the studio and what has been going on throughout the academic year. So welcome, all you ladies. Thank you so much for participating and inviting me to your beautiful campus.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. So going to that introduction, let's talk about things that you ladies are super stoked about, things that you've done this academic year that you just are proud of, things that you want to share to your fellow flute peers.
I'm Lauren. I'm a junior here, music education major. This semester has been really fun just because me and a couple of my colleagues are preparing for our first recital, so that's a really new experience for me and for my partner in crime, Natalie, and a couple of our amazing freshmen, Becky and Victoria. And I think every year we get a great new group of freshmen coming in. They're all very passionate, very dedicated, and I think that, you know, these two in particular that are doing a quartet with us really stand out to me. They're very studious, they're very talented, really, really great to work with, already becoming, you know, great young professionals. So that's been really fun, and I'm very excited for that. I'm also in the Maverick Flute Choir, which is quite a different experience than what...
Lauren is president of the Maverick Flute Choir.
Yes. So it's very different than, I think, what most people would think of as a flute choir. It kind of has a reputation of maybe being a little stuffy, maybe a little bit...
flute choir in general.
Yeah, in general.
Sometimes,
just not all the time. There's some really excellent flute choirs, especially in the area that we're in. It's another chamber ensemble. It's more pressure of workload and all of that, but you know, we have a lot of fun. We do all of our plays, try to help flutists get through some of the fluty issues that we have, dealing with the pressures of school, dealing with the pressures of you know, competitions and all of the head games you play with yourself in the practice room. So I think that's really inspiring for all of us, especially as I'm getting into the later years of my degree where, you know, grad auditions are coming up and I'm preparing for recitals and getting into a lot more of my heavier coursework. So I think that's been really instrumental in helping me grow as a musician, just from writing all these plays, talking about the problems that everybody has, and then, you know, figuring out a way to get through those. And you make these lessons for everybody else to listen to, but I think you learn a lot yourself. I know they come up in my lessons, they come up in all of our lessons pretty often of like, you know, learn from your character, you know, what would this character do? How would they have grown? So I think that's been really cool to play with, especially as I get farther into my degree.
Yeah, it's really something to see Lauren and the rest of the Maverick Flute Choir go to town on these musical plays. They create the characters themselves. They wear costumes. They're playing their flute one moment and then acting in the next moment. It's quite an adventure. Every Tuesday night, I would say something hilarious happens, or we have a new aha moment just as a group together. It's something pretty special.
How neat. Thank you for sharing. I think you need to be a communications major because...
Absolutely.
I think
she's incredibly articulate.
Yes. I am so jealous.
Maybe too much for my own good sometimes.
I think we found the next Flute 360 podcast host because that was just phenomenal. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to chime in with their success stories this academic year? Something you would like to share that you are extremely proud of?
I'm Brittney. I'm a senior music education major here. And for the first time, like this academic year, I've learned that playing the flute can be a relaxing and fun experience. When I first got here as a freshman, I had never had lessons before, ever. Dr. Sánchez was my first lesson teacher. And throughout my years studying with her, I've just learned how to like listen and the beauty of listening and the beauty of making mistakes and listening to those mistakes and owning them and fixing them. And in the past, what I would do is I would block off everything. So if I didn't like what I was hearing, I would just ignore it like it wasn't there, which wasn't helping me grow as a musician. But the second that I opened my ears to the possibility of making a mistake, that's when I grew the most. And especially this year, I feel like I can do anything with my flute playing. I honestly, like when I practice, it's becoming easier, it's becoming more fun because I'm open to mistakes and I'm open to like growing and loving like the music that I'm playing. And I learned that my superpower is performing, and I love performing, especially in the Maverick Flute Choir. The theatrical plays that we do send such powerful messages, and I love that when I perform that I can just be a part of that. So.
Oh my goodness. You guys are killing me.
It's just we're all actors.
Fresh off the stage.
Yeah. And nobody can see this, and the listeners cannot see this, but I am just, my mouth is like dropped to the floor. You're making me cry and tear up because you're so beautiful and eloquently stated, and just your ideas are clearly laid out. And my goodness, I know your teacher is so proud of you. And look at it. I mean, just that, those two answers right there just showcase why she's so proud of you. And what a beautiful testimony. I think that's just amazing. I don't know what your career aspirations are, but whether it's performance or education or business, music has so many different avenues you can take. But you are going to be extremely successful in whatever you choose. I am so proud of you, and I just met you. Wow. Okay, well, anybody else would like to? Yeah, please. I'd love to.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm a freshman music ed major. I have struggled in the past with self-empowerment issues, and I'm also in the flute choir. And part of what we do in the flute choir, at least my character, is kind of like a princess, and she is all about empowering herself and others. And with Dr. Sánchez, I've been able to discover my own self-empowerment. And even in the studio, everybody is very kind and accepting of all of your issues, like things that you have problems with, and they want to help you with it. And not only am I discovering self-empowerment, but empowerment of others. And I'm discovering even outside of the Flute Studio that I want to help others recognize that self-empowerment. So it's been a great experience so far.
Oh, how wonderful. That's great.
I don't know if I'm going to make it through this.
Literally, like, my heart is just fluttering, and I have tears, and it's just like, and then just feeling Terry's energy off of, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And, you know, like what, and for me as a teacher and as a student, I just graduated in May. So I know that feeling of being a student and a teacher at the same time. Man, what a beautiful reflection of your teacher. I mean, as teachers, I kind of feel like a flute mom, where I've adopted my students, and they're like, I feel like a second mom to my girls and to my male students as well. And just to see like Terri's students speaking from the heart and using beautiful words such as growing and empowering and all these wonderful adjectives that have so much power and beauty to them, I know that's a reflection of your teacher and all the other music faculty here at the campus. So what an encouragement to see such a beautiful department come together and create, the next music generation. You guys are going to be the next educators. And yeah, we need that. We need that positive voice within our music community every day, and just remember like this and these lessons that you're getting from Dr. Sanchez and your music professors and your other professors, because we're over here, a generation past you, or a little older. We have a little bit more wrinkles and gray hairs. We're rooting for you because we need for you guys to be that powerful, beautiful influence in your students' lives. And man, these students haven't arrived yet. They're probably, in grade school right now. But they're going to be so lucky to have you.
The ripple effects from just this group right here are unfathomable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Oh my gosh. I am so jealous that Dr. Sanchez got to adopt you guys. Oh my gosh.
She wants to steal you.
I do. And I can say that because I loved working with Hayley. And I was so pumped that, she got to go to Christine Cleary. She's a good friend and a colleague of mine as well. And then when I heard she went to Dr. Sanchez, I thought, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. This is really, really good. But anyways, getting back to your studio and everything that you guys are doing, let's go the other way. What failures or what mistakes, not failures, there's nothing, we say, oh, I failed at something, but that failure is part of the growth. So I don't want to put this, stigma on this, because I trust you, me. 100% of my failures are literally moments when I have become stronger. I've grown the most, I've pushed myself the most, and being in that vulnerable state, oh man, and getting to share that with people so you can relate to them. If somebody comes up to you and says, man, I've had a really bad day, I can't get my tone to do whatever, or something personal in my life is going on, you can say, oh yeah, I've been there, keep going, girl, or whatever. So anyways, so I say failures, with air quotes here, but these failures define and help make who you're going to be. So I just want to clarify that and put that out there. So any lesson that you learned that you would like to share?
So I'm going to chime in again.
Yes.
Gosh. Oh man. I think outwardly to just acquaintances or professors even other than Dr. Sanchez, I don't think that I'm a different person very much. I don't think I've changed a whole lot in just my personality or anything. But I feel like a completely different person than when I got here. I remember I first got here, and I think the first big breakthrough epiphany I ever had was we were in a lesson. I was playing the Chaminade Concertino, which was terrifying, but very exciting. And I just had this aha moment where we were talking about, how I approached music and how I expressed it. And Dr. Sanchez told me, she said, I think you have some really good musical instincts. I think that, for your age, you've got some very clear ideas of how you want to convey the music, but I don't understand why you don't do it, why you won't show me that. Because I would always tell her, oh, this is so much different in the practice room, or like, oh, I don't usually do it this way. And, she just told me, she's like, you realize that your ideas matter, right? Like, you don't need a qualification for that. And I just burst into tears. I think I scared her a little bit.
I would too. I would burst into tears.
But that was the first time that I really thought that. I think in almost every other aspect of my life, I'm a very confident person. I mean, this is my second time speaking in a podcast, but I tend to think that, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing, and if I don't, I can at least act like it. But flute was a completely different story. I was incredibly insecure, and I didn't think that my ideas mattered. I didn't think that I was qualified. I was the student, and I must bow down to the teacher, and, no one necessarily told me that. That was just something that I had been telling myself. And it's just been a series of moments like that for me. It's been, your ideas matter, or, you are worth appreciating the good things that you're doing. You don't need to compare yourself to other people. You don't need to win all these prizes. You don't need to be principal flutist for every audition you take. And that was a big deal for me because I was a very achievement-driven person. And I think I've learned a lot of lessons, not even about just technical flute playing, but just about, how to cope with being a musician. It's a hard thing to do. You have to be so real with yourself and so in tune with your emotions all the time, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed by it, And I think that especially with this generation, with people who aren't like honing like an old world craft and art like this, then that's not something you have to do. We don't have to face our true selves in other parts of our life. It's very easy to hide behind who you want to be or what you think other people want you to be. And it's a big deal. You have to, really, really know yourself and realize your potential, and that making positive changes isn't, changing who you are. It's just getting all the stuff out of the way to actually be who you are, if that makes sense. Like, I just had a lot of stuff in the way of who I was, and we had to do a lot of unpacking before we could really even get down to the flute playing part. And I think that's something that Dr. Sanchez really excels at. I think that's a common story with all of us, is we all come in kind of feeling like an underdog story. We're all very caught up in our own preconceived notions of who we should be or what successful means. And she's very good about, really getting in tune with what we're thinking, what we're feeling as individuals, as people, not just flutes. And I think that's important. I think that's every failure that you have. I know I'm supposed to be talking about setbacks and failures, but for every one of those that I've had, Dr. Sanchez has just used that as a springboard to like push me up to the next level. And so every time I hit, air quotations, rock bottom, every time I know that things are kind of at their worst, I know that the next thing is going to be the clearing in the forest, is what we've referred to it as before, where it's like as soon as things get really dark, I start to really feel excited now, because I know that whatever's coming next is going to be really incredible. So every time I have a setback, it's kind of exciting almost now.
Yeah.
So
what's the saying? It's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a saying that I think I never really internalized that before coming here, because it's very easy to focus on the dark, and it's very easy to get in your own pity party, or like, oh, things are too hard, I'm too busy, I can't do this, I can't do that. But she's very, very good about looking past that, because I think everyone who's here, it's not because we were, first chair state flutists, winning all these competitions. It's because she sees our potential way, way, way before we ever do. So she's really good at pulling out the best of us.
Thank goodness for our teachers, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I would be doing right now if I would still be playing flute or anything like that. But, it's a tough lifestyle. It's a very unique lifestyle, especially compared to the rest of our peers. But I think it's really worth it, because every time I get better at the flute, since it's an extension of ourselves, it's a window into the soul, as Dr. Sanchez says, I think it's exciting, because every time you learn something new, you're becoming a better person. And I think that's the really important thing about, our studio specifically, like what Victoria was talking about, is we're not going to come out just good flute players. We're going to come out well-adjusted people who are able to achieve whatever we want. So,
how insightful. Thank you for that. And thank you for being so vulnerable and honest. And I just love that honesty. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Anybody else would like to share? Yes, Miss Hayley.
Hi, I'm Hayley. I'm a junior music ed major, and definitely throughout my time at UTA, I've had a lot of personal life stuff get in the way of my flute playing. I would say last semester especially had a lot of stuff going on. It caused a lot of failures for me, or rather setbacks for me, not only in my flute playing, but also in my, in my academic career, in my classes. And I think that if I was at another studio without like all of my, they're basically a support system to me Dr. Sanchez and like the rest of my fellow flute players at UTA. I think that if I was at another place without them, I would probably not have picked up the pieces and tried to come back another semester. I probably would have tried to go a different path with my life. But because of the support here and, you know, just the people who are really rooting for you very genuinely, it doesn't feel like people are like, oh, you can do it. It's very...
I love it.
It's very genuine people wanting you to succeed. When one of us has a success, it's really a success for all of us, you know. I would definitely say some of my best friends in my whole life have come from this studio, you know. And it's so important and special to me that even though we have those setbacks and those things that make us want to not continue, having people that surround you that like really, really just make you want to keep going, you know? I think that's been a big part of my career here at UTA and everything. Dr. Sanchez could probably tell you that I haven't been the best student in the whole world, especially about practicing. But I think that, you know, the fact that she hasn't kicked me out of her studio yet is really just helpful to me and has really helped me kind of help me get back on the wagon again, you know. I fell off pretty hard. I would have a couple of bumps and bruises from last semester, but I think the fact that, you know, she encourages you to go forward and so does everyone else at the studio, I think that's really just the only thing I could ever ask for from a studio, you know?
Yeah, and I totally agree about the support system. You know, you need that. I mean, a house and a building, we have metal pillars and a framework before we put, you know, concrete down, and not even thinking curtains. Curtains is the last touch, but you need a good foundation in that support system, whether it's your mentors or your friends or peers, is really important. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a couple of friends in another part of the department that aren't necessarily in an as supportive environment. And they came to Flute Studio one day, or something Flute Studio related, and I believe it was actually a studio class. And so after people perform, we give appreciations and then we give constructive comments. And after the class was over, they were just like, oh my God, you guys like were so nice to each other and it was actually helpful. And I was like, oh yeah, is that just not how it is everywhere? And I wish that it was like that everywhere, you know? I feel like it could be like that everywhere. Everywhere has the potential to be as supportive and helpful and caring as this studio and other studios, I'm sure, that are like it.
Yeah. I can just imagine this person that you're talking about and just imagine this hypothetical conversation saying, yeah, what a concept, you know, you're actually supporting one another.
Yeah, I was taken aback. I was like, you don't have that? It was kind of crazy to me, yeah.
We are disgustingly affectionate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dr. Sanchez can't handle it sometimes. I will literally see someone from the studio and just cry, and I'm like, I just love you so much, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh, yeah, crying over how much you love your friends in the Flute Studio is common.
Yeah, so not sabotaging one another.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Thank you for sharing, Hayley. Thank you so much for that. Anybody else before I change gears? I don't want to leave anyone out if you had something to say. Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm back again. My setback that I've been in a constant ebb and flow with is my organization. I have never been a truly organized person. Like, I've tried to keep binders, and my binders don't work for me. I've tried to do agendas. Nothing really works for me. But as I continue my journey in this flute studio, I'm discovering a lot about myself. Like how a calendar works for me that I put above my bed so that I can see it every day when I wake up and when I go to bed. I keep multiple journals for my ideas. And I just started this last week, actually. Like, I've been writing down my ideas in a journal to keep my creative juices flowing, whatever you want to call it. And it's been very helpful as far as keeping up with my schoolwork, with my practice schedules. And amongst all the ideas that I've had lately, I've been given a challenge to memorize my jury piece. And I found that it's so helpful. Like, it makes the music so much more clear. And it is not, like, using music can be kind of distracting sometimes, in my head at least. And so when I'm closing my eyes and I'm, like, trying to recall the music without having to look at the visual aspect of the music, it's so much more clear to me. So the organizational practice schedules that I've had have always dealt with, like, just reading a piece of music and looking at it for what it is and never really going deeper and listening to the music itself. And doing all these things has really helped. So.
Oh, thank you for sharing. How beautiful. I am #1 advocate for organization. I love sticky tabs and calendars and Excel worksheets. Like, that's how my brain works. So when I hear the word organization, I get really excited. Well, ladies, you are so inspirational, and how lucky am I to spend this time with you and learn from you. We're always learning from each other, and I love getting the chance to hear your voice. So that way, maybe another flute student, maybe, I don't know, Wyoming, Canada, can hear something in your voice and say, oh yeah, I can relate to that, and this music community, as you're going to find out sooner than later, it's very small. Very, very small. And then you have the music community, and then you have, the woodwinds, and then you have flutists. And I went this morning to a boutique in Keller to find a gift for my brother's girlfriend. I'm going to meet her this week in Chicago, and I'm looking through the fudge and the purses and the scarves and girly things, of course. And I just happened to mention to the owner, oh, I'm a flutist. I'm going to Illinois next week. I'm looking for this gift. And she goes, oh, my best friend is the principal flutist of the, blah, blah, blah orchestra. I'm like, okay then. So you never know who you're going to meet. But I say that because I think it's really inspiring just for the community aspect of what we do.
Today's episode is sponsored by J&K Productions. They produce all of my episodes, from adding the intro and outro music to editing the audio and all post-production needs. Contact them for your next podcast project at jkproductions.media.
So before we get into the discussion today, some of you had mentioned highlights that I would like to share with the listeners. One of them, I heard a student say about organizational techniques that you guys are incorporating in your studio. Can somebody share the charts and different techniques that you're using that help you with practicing or homework assignments, things along those lines?
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a junior music education major here at UTA. And I've always liked to think I'm an organized person, but I obviously really didn't know what that meant until I got into college, because I didn't have to organize that much. I didn't have nearly as much going on. What I learned is that the routine and habit is very powerful. We read a lot of books in studio about topics like that. Dr. Sánchez always has personal recommendations for things like that. The art of getting stuff done and the artist's way and other really great resources. And I think the big thing for me was that I had to learn that there really was no one way of doing things, and that even when someone recommends a system of organization to you, that it's totally okay and probably preferable if you change it and make it work for you. And so something that I just started this year is bullet journaling. It's quite a fad, but I think it's definitely a worthy one to explore. I actually got my first bullet journal as a Christmas gift from someone else in the studio, and I think it's really fun because I like to have some artistic outlet other than flute playing, but I have a hard time making time for myself to do things I enjoy that isn't productive, because I think a pressure that we all feel is, oh my gosh, I have so much to do and only so many hours in the day. So I have a pretty extreme phobia of wasting time. So I really like the system I have going now, because I get to kind of have my little artistic outlet, but I still feel like I'm getting something done, and I'm still reminding myself of all the different things I need to do without being overwhelmed by it, because it's something I create on my own.
So just for your listeners to know, Lauren is holding pretty much the cutest journal I've ever seen.
It is adorable.
She has put so much work into that.
Whoa.
And her goals and her time, everything seems like she's engaged so much with it, and like it's helping her engage. It's very inspiring. Have you guys seen her journal?
Oh yeah, it is my child. I talk about nothing else. I say, have you seen my latest flip through? I know I showed you yesterday, but I've done 15 more pages. But I think it's really cool. I'm the type of person who is a master at overwhelming myself with lists. And so I think making my own spreads and choosing all the things that, making my own platform for my organization has really helped, just because I can have so much more fun with it. And it's not nearly as overwhelming as like I used to have like a planner and a calendar, and I had my phone calendar and I had my work calendar, and it was just so many things in so many places, and none of it inspired me at all. And I think that's something that's, really important as a musician, as an artist, is you need to inspire yourself with everything that you do. Because if any one part of your routine becomes a drag, then that just sucks out all your energy from everything else that you're doing. So I mentioned earlier in class that I'm preparing for a recital, my very first one. So this next month is the whole month leading up to that. And so I did just like a musical theme, and I have all different kinds of trackers and stuff. And something else that I learned through this is that I think most people look at my journal and they think it's pretty immaculate. They think it's all very, very well thought out and executed exactly how I intended it to be, which is not the case at all. I think something that I learned through doing this is just, it's important to make mistakes, and it's important to embrace those. And I think a really powerful message that I've just kind of gotten through doing this journaling experiment is that just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you have to start over. It just means that you have to change your plan a little bit and just roll with whatever happens. And so I've got a lot of pages in here. You can see I do what week of the year I'm on. And so this one very boldly says Heek 15 instead of week. But I just left it because that's something that I really try to do, is when I make just a really big glaring mistake, is just accepting it and moving on, because it would have been way much more work to go back and fix it. And it really doesn't change my understanding of what's happening, and it doesn't help me to go back and fix it. It's just worrying about, oh, I misspelled a word.
Well, and sorry to interrupt, Lauren, but I did want to say that's one of my favorite parts of getting into some extra stuff with this group, like organization, like our book studies, is when I see them making it their own, it inspires me in turn. So as, Victoria gets more and more organized, and even when Crystal was sharing with us earlier about spiral curriculum and how that's meaningful to her, I love how the projects evolve and transform as different members of the studio share it with each other, and then I get even more inspired myself, and it's just a mutual benefit to everyone.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Lauren.
And if you're okay, I would love to later take a picture and put it on my website.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that way the listeners can see, it's artwork.
It really is.
It really is. It's gorgeous. And she has this staff, and then, some words, very beautifully written through the lines. And I think visually it's pleasing, and just piggybacking off of what you said, having that creative outlet. I think that's great. In addition to your flute playing.
It's great because I think at some point, lists are a necessary evil with how much stuff we have to do, but it doesn't mean that you have to overwhelm yourself with it. I think setting up exactly what works for you and making it artwork, something that inspires you, something that you're proud to show off to other people, even if it's a little bit messy, is really important. And it's helped me a lot with coping with schedules and everything like that. So
nice. Well, thank you for sharing. And going off of what Dr. Sanchez just said, the curriculum staircase. I think there's a student in the studio who would like to share what this is. And you said it so beautifully before. I would love
before the podcast.
Right. We're like, oh man, the microphone should have been on. But please share with the class and myself, because I'm learning, I don't know, and the listeners, what staircase curriculum is.
So a spiral curriculum.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But actually, I really like thinking of it as a spiral staircase. That kind of makes it even more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Crystal. I am a junior performance major here at UTA, and I always think of it as the spiral staircase curriculum as well. I have to put the staircase in there because it's step by step. There's always obstacles that we have to overcome whenever we're learning about whether it fundamentals or tone, pitch, articulation, double tonguing. I mean, the options, it's limitless. Yeah. So we're always going back over the things we've already learned, like fundamentals, and learning how to play things with more grace, with more musicality. And as you're learning, it's really important to think of your own learning process and where you've been, the path you've taken as the spiral staircase, because you will always be returning to that same vertical point, that same issue or problem or challenge or step, and overcoming it at a different perspective whenever you're higher up on the staircase is one of the things that really unlocks your potential and your awareness as a performer, because as we mature, there's just so much to learn and so much to take in, and everything's connected, and it sounds very abstract, I realize. But it's so important to me to realize that perfectionism and ego can quickly be combated by understanding that your journey as a performer, as a student, is up to you and your awareness and your experiences. And so everyone has their own spiral staircase that they have to walk up for the rest of their life.
How neat. Thank you for being so honest and telling us what that means to you. I think that's very important, so thank you.
Well, and that's something that really inspires me when I have Crystal in her partner lesson and she's the observer. Her note-taking process and her learning process and the way that she asks questions, it really is inspiring because of how reflective she is and how she likes to put the puzzle pieces together. And she always, because she appreciates this concept, she always contributes to the lesson and makes it better for having been there and having engaged. As you can hear, she's really into the pedagogy process, and I think she's going to be an amazing teacher.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm so excited for you. Yeah. Great. So I just like to highlight for the listeners out there that, you know, my time with UTA Flute Studio is so short, unfortunately. And I say that because, you know, this couple hours that I've been with these great gentlemen and women is that UTA Music Department, the Flute Studio, you can just tell their students are thriving and growing, and that's so exciting as an educator to see. And I've learned a lot from them in these 2 short hours, and my time with y'all is very short, and I say that to the listeners because we just talked about the staircase and organizational techniques, but those are just two highlights that this studio is doing. And I so loved your performance at the Texas Flute Society's festival. The theatrics that go into it and the message that you're sending is so uplifting and inspiring. And words are powerful and music is powerful, and I'm seeing that from the studio. And so be encouraged that the rest of the flute community is being inspired by your guys' performances, and you should be very proud of that. So I don't want to take from your Friday afternoon. I could sit here and talk to you forever, but I have to honor your time. So I think the class is almost about to come to an end. Is there anything like a final wrap-up, something somebody wants to contribute and share just as a final like closing statement about the studio or a tribute to your awesome, amazing teacher? Anything to wrap up this time together?
Hi, I'm Brittney. I'm a senior music education major here. And final words would be that I think the biggest lesson that I've learned being in the studio for 4 years is that make every decision out of love. So we're all musicians. We all came here to study, to learn how to become better musicians and thus becoming better educators. And I think that remembering why we love music and using that initial love for music to encourage us to practice and encourage us to strive to look for ways to grow and to just be better. If I hadn't come to that realization, I would still be the same musician I was 4 years ago, but I can happily say that now every time I pick up my flute, it's something that I look forward to. Like, I'm excited to practice. I'm excited to learn and grow, and especially as someone who is inspiring to be an educator for young students, I can't wait to learn how to instill that love of music in the hearts of many. And even if they don't want to become musicians, they can at least appreciate it and love it as much as I do.
Oh, how amazing. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful. Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the time that I got to share with you all, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. Today's episode is sponsored by J&K Productions. They produce all of my episodes, from adding the intro and outro music to editing the audio and all post-production needs. Contact them for your next podcast project at jkproductions.media. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. For more information, please visit HeidiKBegay.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review in the iTunes store. Let's talk about flute.